Hi everybody, this is Skunk Sauce TV, and today we're going to be exploring 10 short creepy games you may have never heard of before. This will be the first video in a new series of mine where I cover games made by smaller creators that I think deserve to have more recognition. I will link all of the games mentioned here in the description and will do my best to avoid major spoilers while covering these games, so we're not going to be super detail heavy on all of the things that go on in these games, but we're going to talk about them nonetheless. So yeah, if you're looking for some new and interesting games to play and you just have no idea what to turn to anymore, this is the video for you. Let's dive right in. Number 1. Water Womb World by Yames. Water Womb World is a short, pixel-style horror game with a runtime of around 15 to 20 minutes or so. In Water Womb World, we follow our protagonist who's journeying to the bottom of the ocean in an effort to find God. As you scour the ocean floor and find various artifacts to help with your research, you grow increasingly delusional as your reality begins to melt around you. This game has a really beautiful art style and a very unique playstyle that's kind of reminiscent of certain pixel games from the 90s. This game definitely leaves you with a dark feeling and is fairly unsettling, to say the least. Water Womb World's unique gameplay definitely jumps out to me. As you swim about on the ocean floor in complete darkness, you can't help but to wonder what could be in your direct vicinity. I'm also just a huge fan of religious horror in general, and I really love the way that this game does it. The dialogue is fantastic, the art is fantastic, and it'll overall leave you with a really weird feeling. Definitely recommend. Number 2. Screensaver by Duncan Corrigan. Screensaver is a very short visual novel style game with a runtime of about 15 to 20 minutes. This game doesn't necessarily have a set, concrete story per se, but the main characters are simply you as yourself and your computer. This game has a focus on technology and our connection to it as human beings. If your computer was sentient, would it love you? And would you love it back? I'm probably not going to say too much about this game and leave it kind of vague because I honestly think you should just play it for yourself. The Windows-style pop-ups and text boxes paired with the other visual elements make this a very eye-catching game that has left many players either uncomfortable, conflicted, or full of love. I think this game serves really well as a very beautiful art piece. It's unique and is definitely a concept that I haven't really seen much before in gaming. The game has a variety of tasks for you to complete both physically and on the computer. I suppose you don't have to follow along with the physical instructions, but I definitely recommend you do. It makes the gameplay very interesting. Number 3. Closing at 2 by Natalie Reyes. Closing at 2 is another short pixel-style horror game with a runtime of about 15 to 20 minutes. You play as a bartender for a hotel bar serving your regulars on one boring night. Everything starts out normal, but as the night progresses, you notice a shift in the customers around you behavior. Their personalities and physical appearances begin to degrade and grow increasingly frightening. It's up to you to calm them down with their drinks of choice and stay alive until closing time. The playstyle of this game is pretty reminiscent to games like Papa's Pizzeria, where the main goal is to make your customer something and not mess it up. Each regular will use subtle visual clues to tell you what they want, and if you don't pay attention, things will go very wrong for you. There is a full version of this game currently in development, and I can't wait to play that next, but for now, this works great. The art style is charming, and the gameplay is short, spooky, sweet, and to the point. Number 4. Infineural by Mike Klubnica. Now, I know I said I was mostly going to be covering smaller developers, but I couldn't help myself from wanting to talk about one of Mike Klubnica's previous games. If that name rings a bell at all to you, he's the creator of Buckshot Roulette. I honestly might make a fully separate video about him and all of the games he's released so far, because I have quite literally played all of them, and I really love all of them to death. Infineural is a short, PlayStation-esque graphic style game with a runtime of about 10 to 20 minutes. The game features multiple endings with a unique plot. In this game, you have signed up to be a part of some kind of AI testing in exchange for money. Many people have gone through the same testing before you that you're about to go through, but have no memory of what the testing entailed due to the anesthetic that's administered to you before you begin. You can either choose to take the anesthetic or not take the anesthetic for two very different outcomes. Without giving too much away, Infineural is a game about time dilation and the horrors of eternal boredom. As always, I love this art style and game so much, and I had a great time playing this one. What happens to the main character during testing makes you think about how horrible it would be for you to be in that situation. This game definitely deserves a playthrough or two, and I highly recommend you check out some of Mike Klimika's other older titles as well. I'm a big fan of Concrete Tremor myself. Number 5. Barbatine by Alex Rasloff. Barbatine is honestly one of my favorites out of this list that I have going right now with all of these games that I'm collecting. This game is an atmospheric and surreal PlayStation-style horror game with a runtime of around 20 to 30 minutes. The creator describes the game as micro-horror, which I really love. Barbatine is an absolutely bizarre, surreal game. You never truly know what direction you're about to turn. I swear to God, the first time I played this, it kind of felt like two fully separate games, and yet they worked so well together. You start the game at a house party and end the game in a giant dark pit to hell, pretty much. For the first half of the game, you do menial tasks throughout the day and find yourself waking up in the morning a little bit different each day. Things quickly go downhill from there as other beings are introduced and you start to confront them. I genuinely really enjoyed this game and had such a fun time playing through it. It was surreal and unsettling and made a great abstract art piece surrounding body image, anxiety, and obsessive habits. It's also a little bit nasty if you're into that kind of thing. I highly recommend it. Number 6. Egg Fried Rice by Greenwood Games. Egg Fried Rice is another PlayStation-style or retro-style horror game with about 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay and features multiple endings. You, as the main character, wake up in the middle of the night incredibly hungry. Your house has no food, but you cannot sleep under these conditions, so you decide to drive downtown and go get yourself some egg fried rice. Be warned though, because it seems like you just might be getting followed. What I like most about this game is, though it's absurd and fairly funny, it's equally as spooky and unsettling. The gameplay is super fun, and I appreciate that the game actually makes you drive the car to and from the fried rice restaurant. I feel like that's an extra mechanic that a lot of games don't typically use, and it definitely builds the suspension while you're playing. Throughout the game, you have the ability to get many different endings, all fun and unique. This was probably one of my favorites on this list. The replayability is awesome, and I find myself wanting to go back to the game and make sure I see everything multiple times. I definitely recommend Egg Fried Rice for a more lighthearted option that'll still give you scares that feel like a haunted house. Number 7. A Vivid Life by Deconstruct Team. A Vivid Life is a point-and-click, narrative-driven pixel-style game with a runtime of around 10 to 20 minutes. The game features a girl who discovers that her skeleton is not hers. She steals an X-ray machine and flees the country to investigate her body. From what I can tell, this short game seems to be a part of something bigger that the developers are working on, as they say on their itch page that the game is a narrative experiment on something they cannot reveal yet. This game is definitely a lot more graphic in its storytelling and sound design than it is visually, with focuses on self-mutilation and PTSD. Throughout the game, you scan yourself with an X-ray machine and click on anomalies that you find, getting them out of your body. This game is a little bit more surreal and seems to have a lot of endings depending on your choices and what you find. Overall, I think the concept for this is incredibly unique, and I find myself wanting more of this 100%. There's definitely a storyline or multiple storylines here to be discovered, and a profound underlying sadness to investigate, in a way. Number 8. Call to Summon by Ken Forrest. Call to Summon can be completed in about 15 to 30 minutes and is a puzzle-style horror game with some really interesting mechanics to it. In Call to Summon, you use an old flip phone to call objects into existence and summon them. There will occasionally be numbers written on the walls that you can add to your contacts list to use later, as well as various objects littered throughout this abandoned complex that you seem to find yourself trapped in. This game has a great atmosphere and a really fun concept I haven't seen before, and I really like the idea of connecting summoning things or bringing things into existence through the use of technology. This is another one of those games that I find myself praying for an extended release of one day because I really enjoy the concept that's here, and I think it's super unique and really fun. The gameplay is fun, it's different, and everything looks really awesome with a focus on a liminal aesthetic, so I highly recommend it. Number 9. Pager by Bilge. Bilge? Balge? I don't know. I'm sorry. Pager is a pixelated horror game by Bilge that can be completed in 20 to 30 minutes. The game is currently just a demo, but I'm so impressed by it that I refuse to not put it on this list because I really think you need to play it. The art style for this game is absolutely gorgeous. You even have the ability to change the color palette while you're playing, which I think is really cool. I think that extra customization is just super fun. On Bilge's itch page, Pager is described to be a 1-bit 3D Kafkaesque horror game set in a 90s office building, and I really could not have said it better myself here. There are many decisions to make here and a lot of things to explore despite the environments being fairly simple. Everything here is done incredibly well and the dialogue is fantastic. The storyline is interesting, it's different, and I just think you should go and play it. The game has a sort of large and empty feeling to it that makes it both unsettling and kind of relaxing in a weird way-ish. No matter the case, I highly recommend you go play Pager, and I excitedly look forward to the release of the full game. And finally, number 10. Now, I debated whether or not I wanted to actually include this game on this list because it's gaining popularity very quickly, and it's also such a fantastic game that I will be making a whole other video just to talk about this game, but I decided to put it on this list anyway because I genuinely think more people should play this. It's actually getting released on Steam today on the 10th of October, but was playable on itch before. Bad Parenting by 2002 is a retro stylistic horror game about the horrors of child abuse. It looks like this might be the first installation in a series of some sort, as the game is called Bad Parenting 1: Mr. Redface. In Bad Parenting, we follow a young boy who excitedly awaits a visit from a mystical creature called Mr. Redface, who supposedly leaves gifts behind on children's birthdays while they are sleeping. Now, I really don't want to go into the details of this too much because honestly, it's so unsettling that if you're into horror, if you like games that look like this, no negotiation, you need to play this for yourself. There was a certain part in this game that genuinely made my skin crawl in a way that has only happened to me like once or twice, and that was many, many years ago with like Amnesia and Layers of Fear when I played them for the first time, so I'm putting it on that level. I absolutely cannot wait to see what the developers continue to come up with. The gameplay here is like maybe 20 to 30 minutes, so, short, sweet, to the point, and freaky as hell. Of course, this game does have a focus on pretty heavy topics relating to child abuse, so, play at your own risk, but I definitely think it's worth it. Alright, those were 10 creepy short games you may have never heard of before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but before I made this video, I haven't heard of them, so that's why they're here. I highly recommend taking some time out of your day while you're relaxing to sit back and play these games. Not only would you be supporting some smaller developers or some newer developers, but you get to have an interesting and fun time getting some scares in. If you have any recommendations for horror games that you love but never hear about, please leave a comment below. I'd be happy to cover them in another video, and I'm really excited to be starting this series. This is Skunk Sauce signing off. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and have a good night. Bye!